Hello, everybody. It's Ron and Hope Unfiltered, real, raw, and relevant. And we are so glad that you are here today. Ronald Wayne, how you feeling over there?
You missed last week.
Yeah, I did.
I do it by myself.
I did. I was busy working for the Lord.
Ratings went down.
Sorry. I was doing Come Higher.
I don't know that ratings went down. I'm supposing.
Oh, okay. How are
That
you
ratings
feeling?
went
You
down.
hadn't been feeling good. You've been sick.
They didn't know that.
Ronaldo has an ear infection.
We didn't know I had an ear infection because I had my tonsils were swollen and it was hard to preach Sunday, especially to exert myself. So I thought like I had something with tonsils. They said, no, your ear's infected and it's draining.
And let me tell y'all, he is a horrible patient when it comes to putting drops in the ear. I mean,
Baby.
acting like a 3-year-old.
Baby. Baby. I had my knee operated on and didn't even use a crutch.
Ron, why are you jerking and crying and
I
complaining?
come back from, when I get sick, I don't even go home.
Ron,
I don't even miss days.
let's talk about the
Wait a minute, no,
eardrops.
let's just look at, you might said a big thing, context. I plow through everything. every operation I've ever had, bam, right back. But I told you when she gave me eardrops, I said, God, I hate that feeling. She told me, I said, I don't want that. She wanted to give me antibiotic eardrops. She's never done that before. She always gave me oral. And she gave me, I'm like, I don't want drops. She said, yep, twice a day, 3 drops at a time. So I handed you the drops, and what did I look at you and said? I said, I hate the feeling of something going down my ear. And I do. But I was upfront about it because I knew it. I can't stand it.
And still acting
Like people putting a Q-tip in there. I can't.
acting like I had done something this morning.
No, it's
to
not
hurt
pain.
you.
It just wigs me out. I don't like the feeling of something in my ear.
Okay.
I don't like
All
that.
right.
Like people like.
Well,
would
let's
stick
just pray that he's on the
peroxide
mend
and all that.
so that we don't
I
have to
feel
do
a little
this
bit better.
anymore.
Did it first time last night, but it was swollen. I mean, it was. You could see it down there.
Yeah.
Said a lymph node was swollen because of it. So anyway, but I can't stand that feeling. Like when they get waxed and they shoot that water in your ear. Feels like it's running through your whole brain.
Okay.
I can't stand that feeling. Anyway, but I
You're
am
better.
feeling better. And
So-
last week I did a little teaching when you weren't
I
here.
watched it, actually.
So, was it all right?
Yeah, it was good. I watched
Yeah.
it. Me
You
and
watched
the
it with the
other
women that come
ladies,
higher?
yep. And we were in Pigeon Forge, and we had
Did
finished
they
a
like it?
session, and we sat down that night. Yeah, it was great. There was no laughter in the room.
Because I'm not funny.
Like we normally have. There was no laughter. It's very serious.
Well, we'll have both today.
Okay.
Here's what me and Hope want to talk about. We got the only child left in our house unmarried is Chaz, our middle child, and he's getting married. When this
2
drops,
days.
No, when this drops,
It'll be
it will
one
be a
day.
1 day.
Yeah.
And we are empty nesters because Chaz a year and a half ago
Moved out.
got his own place. So we had a kid in our house for an its total. I counted up with 28 years. And so, there's some people. Let's talk about this before we go into the phases of raising kids. There's some people that I've heard stories. That when all the kids left, they almost didn't know how to relate to one another without the kids being a part of it.
Right. They had no life together outside of their children.
And I mean, I've heard some stories where people come up on some really marital hard times.
Yeah, a lot of people divorce when the kids move out.
And that's that, late 40s divorce rate and thing where sometimes it spikes right in there. I think that is not all of it, but I think it has a part to do with it because they only knew how to relate as a family reunion. Then when you back to a couple, like you originally were, they realize the lack of investment they've had in each other. And that's not downing anybody. That can happen subconsciously just by sheer trying to keep up with everything. School, homework, ball games, PTA meetings, he works, she works, church, volunteer. I mean, it's just life. And there probably wasn't a whole lot of time to stare into one another's eyes. like you
Right.
did when you were dating and before you started having kids. So me and Hope have never tried to do parenting classes. Let other people do that because we're probably still learning a lot on how to parent. But the fact is, I think we can speak into several phases. And watching this podcast, there are people here with no kids, never had them, probably want to one day. There are people here with maybe babies and young kids. Then you have the adolescent/teen when you start losing control. And then you have, how do you relate to a child as an adult? I think you and I, by trial and error and out of pain and some successes, can speak into some of those phases with something that may help somebody. Said, man, I needed to hear that. Man, I needed to hear that. Let's go to babies. How did babies change things?
Good Lord have mercy.
I'm going to ask you because it don't affect anybody like a mother.
I wanted babies more than I wanted
Yes, you
breath.
did. You did. You wanted a child. You was almost like Hannah in the Bible.
Yes, I wanted children.
And you told me that from the time we were dating. Mm-hmm. You let me know that.
And
you had a couple of miscarriages.
Yeah,
that
I had
was
some
really
miscarriages.
rough.
But I think even, every child's different. Everybody who's had any knows that. But in our first one was very difficult. He didn't sleep well. But even at that,
I'll leave that alone. But sleep well is being generous.
No, he did not sleep hardly at all. Amped from birth. Mm-hmm. But even at that, it is 100% 24/7 job. I don't know how single moms do it.
I've always said they need a medal.
I don't know how they get it done. I just don't know.
Because you depended heavily on me and I depended heavily on you.
Yes. We were both all in.
We did it together, all in. And so when I see, this single mama to raise 2 or 3 kids, I'm like, man, give her a shirt with an S on the cape and give her a gold medal. And a single father, although they're fewer in number.
I remember though one time, it was like the realization hit me. And this sounds terrible, but it was like I was so tired. The laundry doesn't stop. The kids are hungry. Somebody's got to feed y'all, change y'all, clean the house, do the things. And most people at that stage in life don't have much money. So you don't have the extra help and you don't have the date nights. And I remember the realization like a panic hit me one day. I was by myself at home with them when they were little. And I'm like, this is never going to go away. This is always going to be like this until they get out of my house. And I almost panicked because it is a sense of overwhelming desperation at times. It is.
As a mother, let me ask you a question. I've heard mamas make strong statements like, once you have babies, it ain't about you no more.
It's not.
I've probably
Your life is
said
over.
that statement. Yeah,
Your life is over.
Do you think you totally lose yourself in motherhood? Or do you think there's a danger if you totally lose yourself in motherhood? Is it the pleasure of motherhood to lose yourself and now your legacy is all these little ones running around you? Or is it you have to hold on to some sense of you?
I think that this is hard to describe. I think you have to be all in at I'm losing myself for them. Because
you
if you don't,
in your mind.
You will always be trying to get away, to get something, to recapture something, to regain something. But I don't think you can lose yourself 100% totally if you're not 100% totally secure in yourself. I think it's always a struggle and always that battle. So you got to be secure in yourself and who you are in Christ, and that this is your calling, that yes, you have callings and giftings and anointings outside of being a mama, But that, you don't ever let go of that one. That one is 100% yours all the time.
I made a statement in the last meeting we were in about the sword falls both ways. I've seen mothers who live, eat, drink, get up, and exist to be a mom. And then when that motherhood stage is over, they're lost.
That's why I said what I just said.
They're lost.
You have to be 100% all in that my life's over. Lord, I'm putting them and my family first, but you have to be 100% okay knowing who you are in Christ and, that this is temporary.
And then for those who, who kind of maybe still were oriented in some other area and wanted to kind of do mama on the side, the sword falls another way that can be negative.
It does.
So it's hard. It's hard to hit it down the middle.
I didn't ever want to work full time, and I'm so thankful to God that I didn't have to. I don't know. I know a lot of people don't have that option.
Well, it wasn't because we were rolling in money. It's because we decided to live within our means.
We did.
We made a decision.
And we knew. I mean, we were on welfare for a long time.
The first one we were.
Yeah, we just struggled.
Toward channeling, it started changing. But we had Chase. I mean, there's no doubt.
But I wanted to work. I wanted to stay home with them, but I also wanted to work a little bit.
I call it cherry pick.
Yeah, so I would go into the office 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time I stayed home.
Yeah, I want to do this. I want to do this.
And that was very fulfilling to me.
Up to that point, it was me and you doing everything.
Yeah, I didn't have babysitters then. I didn't have any of that.
By the time you had a baby, it was you cherry picking. So let me give you best case scenario, something I think, Ron and Hope did right. That worked for us.
It did.
Now, if you are grinding it out as a dual income family to survive, I heard Dave Ramsey say there's only one of two things. You either got to increase your income with a change of career or something, change of job, change of trade.
Or
he
decrease.
said, or you got to decrease your expenses. There's no other way around it. But what Hope and I did, when we had Chase, we had an itty bitty teeny tiny, I mean, absolutely.
It was a cracker box
tiny house. And you know what? Hope had 2 degrees. Now, Hope could have went and got her a big time job, and we did, childcare. Nothing wrong with childcare if you do it. Nothing wrong. But we chose. This car's 4 years old. We're gonna drive it. This car's got 100,000 miles. We're gonna drive it, and this house is. What was it? 1,080 is what I think. Or 1,180. It's like 1,080 square feet.
It's tiny.
Tiny home. I remember the bedroom Chase was in. You walked sideways because there was not even room for like a bed. And so we chose to live until our life could afford us to move somewhere else because you were a dedicated mother. You pulled away from the ministry, and then you got to cherry pick. I think you did things for women. I can't remember what else you did.
I didn't even start that, Ron, until after Chaz was born.
Didn't?
No.
So right after Chase, I can't
No, I stayed home.
Stayed home.
Every single day.
And it was just a choice we made.
Yeah.
I think that is the ideal situation if you can do it. Don't fire off in the comment section on YouTube. Well, y'all had, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. The first Chase, we had no insurance and we was cutting government cheese.
Yeah.
And we lived very frugally, and we chose to do that because Hope could have gone easily and outdone my income. Easily. But that wasn't what we did. We chose to do it another way. I think, Hope, that's something we did right.
Yeah.
Because Chase needed all that and more. Chase needed all that parenting and more.
I have great memories, such great memories of all 3 of them being little. And you remember when Chaz would put that bucket on his head and it would make his ears do like that? And Chase would run around. Chaz would have passy in his mouth. They both would have drumsticks.
While we played Toto.
Yes.
My
and Chandlin
kids
was a
loved
baby.
80s Toto.
She was just a little baby.
She's a baby.
Just toddle, crawling around. But they loved 80s music, and they'd play the drums and sing and run around. I mean, you remember that motorcycle? We got them those little electric battery-powered motorcycles, and they would fly
Chase and
down
Chaz
that
rode them things
hill.
hard.
And Chandlin would cry because she wanted one.
She wanted to do it. We have great memories because I think we invested heavily in that time. And we only increased our lifestyle when the money afforded itself. I only know one time, and we laugh about it, a certain car that I bought, where we really kind of overextended ourselves. Every other time, we stayed in the confines of where we were financially. And to me, I wouldn't take nothing for the fact that you have all those moments in your heart with our little babies.
Yeah.
Now, I came home at the end of the day, and you were...
I was fried. I
You were
was
done.
fried. I
Tell
will
them
have
about
to
the day.
admit, I was fried. Ron would come home. I'd hand one of them to him. I'd say, they in the swing. I'm going to Target.
Yeah.
You know, and he would let me. Because
No,
he got
I'll
to,
never forget
I
the
used to
day.
say, you get to leave and go be
Yeah.
around adults.
You know,
I don't.
I used to go do all the church visitation and all. So I wore suits even during the week, or a tie at least. I go to hospitals. And I remember one day when I did everything, I came home, it seemed like it was about 5:30, and you were in the driveway with Chase. You had him straight. You were done that
That's
day
when
with
Chaz
him.
was a baby.
And Chaz was a baby, and you stood there. You didn't even say anything.
I didn't have
I got
to.
out of the car with my tie still on. You handed him to me, and you just got in the car and drove off.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, she's fried. Whatever's happened today, she's fried. And I'd get in there and start from ground zero and wear them out, because I was excited to be home. You were excited to
It
have
worked
a
well.
moment. It worked
It
moment.
worked well.
So we're going to spend all our time on that.
Now
We don't watch out.
school age, kids.
So let me skip a little bit. Let me skip primary, elementary. Let me skip.
I think, though, that's hard. I mean, that's hard as a parent because you got homework for the first time, you got projects for the first time, you got ball lessons, dance lessons, gymnastics,
Getting called by the
horseback
school
riding.
principal.
You got all these moving parts, and that's a whole nother juggle.
Yeah, we could probably do
Of
4 or 5
parenting.
podcasts on this. We're trying to
Yes.
do all these seasons. But we're leading up to the fact Chaz is getting married this week. And we want to the season of junior high, middle school, and senior high is rough. Because you don't
It's
want to
so
admit it.
fast-paced.
You really don't want to admit it. But you are less of an authority and you're more of an influencer. Because the fact is, that's where they are, what's that word Denise used to call it? They are
Individuate.
They
Individuating.
Letting them individuate while still being under the authority of your household is awful.
It is, and trying to protect them in that.
Because they have to develop a sense of person.
Yeah.
A person that is not led by their dad's boundaries, but they are led by internal boundaries.
But they haven't had time to develop those, nor do they have the brain skills to even appropriate
Here's
those.
what's hard. They kick against your and my boundaries.
Right.
But
they
they've not
won't
developed their
their
own.
own. Nor do they have the
That-
capability.
That is a difficult season because they're individuating. They're not mature enough to know where danger lies. And even sometimes the true essence of right and wrong.
Yeah.
I don't mean right and wrong as a moral code. A right and wrong is,
Should I do this? Yeah.
I don't need to be here. This is not going to end well. They don't have those instincts.
They hadn't had time to develop a relationship with God, to even lead them,
They still
to hear the Holy Spirit.
So-
They don't understand all that.
they rebel against you out of their individuation, which is a normal process. But you had such a short amount of time, they don't have all of your boundaries yet. And that is one of the most difficult stages because some of where our children came off the rails, to me, was that stage. I got some things I would do differently.
Absolutely.
I got some things I would do
a
differently.
lot of things I do different.
There were, regrettably, there were things that I felt so ganged up on by my children. I love them enough to let them be mad at me. And I think I told them that I love you enough for you to be mad at me. I can handle that. I love you that much. But they get to a place they beat you down so much with something that you give leash that was to their detriment. I know you and I also made a decision that no matter how much we had to sacrifice, we wanted our kids to as much as possible go to a
Christian
Christian school.
Yeah.
And I let our kids hammered us and hammered us and hammered us and hammered us because we had about 1,000 junior high and teenagers at our church that all went to public school. So all of their church friends in one of the most happening youth groups to this day I've ever seen all went to public school. And they hammered us. And I didn't want to be the hated dad. I didn't want to be that. And I remember I made that decision, and it was instantaneous coming off the rails. It was instantaneous. It was the first week.
Yeah, we let them go in 8th grade to
That was the deal we made.
school.
They're going to go in Christian all the way to 8th grade. If you've done right, you've made good grades, we'll let you go to public school and finish out. I would do that one over. I wish I had that one
It
back.
wasn't a bad thing for Chaz. It was actually a life-giving thing for Chaz because
But Chaz was homeschooled.
Yeah, he had been homeschooled and
He
had
wanted to
some learning issues, and he had really come into himself, into his confidence, and said, I really want to try going to public school. And that was a huge win.
That was something celebrated.
That was a huge win. And so he went. But the other two, just didn't make great choices.
They gave in to their influences
Yeah.
that were no longer Christian. And a lot of the going back and fixing things in the 20s had to do
we say we
mistakes.
would do it over.
I would.
There's no way we can. And I believe, God, we have to believe God takes all things, works it out, for our good.
Oh, yeah, we're in a great place.
I think now our children who struggled so bad at the hand of maybe some things we did wrong now are really working out who they are early. And I think it's going to make them stronger. I really do think that.
Well, God uses it all, thank God.
I see what God's hand on their life now. And, just some of the wisdom that they have from a lot of the things they've been through. And
self-awareness
they
they're coming
are.
to,
And
yeah.
I'm very proud. I'm so very proud of all of them.
So would I do it again? No. Does God use it?
Yes.
And he
Yes.
has used it. Now, to this next stage, which probably not a lot of our podcasters are in this stage, because quite honestly, people our age and up don't watch podcasts, but nobody's home.
Nobody's home, Ronald.
Nobody's home. I was sad for a little while. I had like a day or two. I didn't have a season, but I had a day or two. I remember going and sitting in the bedrooms and looking around.
Well, I think it's God's reward.
Yeah.
It's hard raising kids.
But I'm talking about I was sad they were no longer there.
I know,
had
but
a
I'm
genuine
saying
sadness.
that we're excited now. We're enjoying our life, but it's God's reward.
But
No, grandkids are God's reward.
here's where we are now. The challenge of having always been dad, and dad's going to fix this, and dad's going to spank you, and you're going to be in trouble with dad, and dad will get me out, and dad will rescue me, to letting them be an adult.
It's hard.
That has not been as easy as I thought it would be.
No, it hasn't. And I think because of, some of the deficiencies in their life, they kind of sometimes, I think, Ron, want to go back and recapture some time that they lost. And the truth is, that season's over.
Yeah,
you cannot
God will
relive
restore it, but you can't relive it.
You can't go back and get it. And that is not the void that's missing in your life as a kid, a young adult. You want to go back and try to recapture it, but you can't do that. You're trying to put the wrong thing in the right hole, like putting a square peg in a round. It's just not going to ever fit. And that's where God's stretching them to be able to work out their own salvation and to figure out who they are in Christ.
The teaching part that I would like to end on, because we've been at our half-hour mark now, is if people have ever been in our marriage conference, we've taught about this. I don't really talk about it in church much, but I talk about it at length in the marriage conference. The Bible does not say honor your parents. Bible says honor your father and mother. The reason it says father and mother is because father and mother are life source.
Yeah. They're the ones who made
And
you.
every time in the Bible, they're speaking about a life source. God demands honor. Honor your mother and father, their life source. Honor God. He's like, those who instruct in the word are worthy of double honor. They're a life source. So everywhere in the Bible you see something that is a source of life, God demands that it be honored. But the Bible doesn't say honor your parents, because what people don't understand, parents are not people. Parents are a role that mother and father played. So the thing that gave you life now has to turn around and play a role called parenthood. And what has helped me is I know now parenthood has ceased. But what does fatherhood look like? Does that make sense?
Yes,
that make sense?
absolutely.
So I'm asking questions to other people when I'm around them. That are my age? What do you do with this? How much do you give? How much legacy? Legacy is what you put in them. Inheritance is what you leave for them. So, what the Bible says, leave an inheritance that can last for your children's children. But what does that look like? Does that mean you inheritance them right out of purpose? I don't want my kids to have a trust fund and no purpose.
Right.
Because money is a terrible substitute for purpose. So, here again, we're still in a phase with our offspring
Figuring
where
out.
we're looking for answers.
Yeah.
So I think what we're trying to tell you is it never stops.
No, it doesn't.
Because you're twisting and turning the buttons. How do I make this kid sleep? Then you're twisting and turning buttons. How do I get this little child to quit throwing temper tantrums? Then you're twisting and turning buttons. How do I get them to date the right people because that's their standard? Then you're twisting and turning buttons.
Future and
What does adulthood look like? What do I involve myself in, and y'all got to figure that out.
Yeah. I think we've decided now that they're all married that we don't get involved in anything unless they ask us.
Yeah, because it's not always welcome.
No, it isn't. So we're like, live your life, be great. But then they get mad if you don't. It's hard.
You find in the buttons to push, and with them changing and navigating through seasons, you're navigating right along with them to know what does mom and dad look like in this season, in this season, in this. So the good part for me and Hope is we got plans. One of the things me and you did, it's on a different level now because God has blessed us. But you never were really a night owl. But I remember looking at you, we'd watch a movie and it'd be 11:30, 12 o'clock, and let's go to Waffle House. This midnight just.
That's when I was young and spontaneous.
Yes. And they're like, Waffle House, what, all of $11? Well, that was spontaneity at that season. But now it's coming home on a Sunday night and you look at me and said, I called them, you're not going to be in the office till Wednesday morning. We're going so-and-so for 2 days. And it is so much fun knowing that you can come and go and there's no babysitter. You don't have any of those responsibilities involved. So there is the reward of seeing your kids living as an adult, but there's also the reward of you and I almost feeling like we're 22 again.
Yeah. But let me hesitate to go back to say, I want to hesitate and go back and say, don't wish yourself out of enjoying the stage that you're in. You'll never get it back. You'll never get that time back.
You'll blink your eyes and it's gone.
And just embrace it. Love them right where they are. They'll get over whatever they're going through. They'll stop sucking their passy. They'll start sleeping through the night. They'll start making right decisions.
Travel, volleyball, and baseball will not last forever.
It ends, yes. And you will pay off the college debt. And
the braces.
You will survive it. You really will. And they will figure out their life. Just like I had to figure out mine. Just like Ron had to figure out his. I think in all our failures, we have always been quick to give our kids to God. I have prayed over those kids every single night of their life, in drives, in times up at night, walking around the house. And his word does not lie. If you have trained those kids in the way they should go, and we have always tried to be faithful, to put God first in their life, when they're old, they will not depart. And that is a promise. That is a promise from God. Are they perfect? No, but neither am I, and neither are you. And just love them where they are. Be gentle with them. Be kind to them. You don't have a lot of time with them, and that makes me sad.
When you're in it, you feel like it's going to last forever. When it's over, you're like, what happened?
I know. Makes me
It
sad.
really is. It really is. You're like, what happened? And you enjoy the moments, just like when
I'm going to cry Friday
when Chase,
night at the wedding.
just like when Chase pooped in his pants as a young boy, and you made him stand in the yard and hosed him off with a water hose while it was hurting him. He was not a baby; he was a boy.
He was like
And
11.
he didn't want to come in.
He didn't want to stop
He
playing.
didn't want to stop playing, so he just did it in his pants.
And I saw him sneaking around the house butt naked, covering himself, and he had poop on his back. Oh, and then Chandler, remember, she would get up and would not comb her hair.
Well,
and she'd keep her gown on and put her cowboy boots on and go play with the boys.
Yep.
The boys.
She's always wanted to play with the boys. And I come home one day, and Chase and Chaz has Chandler on the biggest four-wheeler we have racing. And she was what? 5?
She was 5 years old.
I'd stopped my truck,
Grinning.
middle of the thing, and started running down trying to catch her, and she was flying. That thing was like one for a big hunter to be riding on. She was 5. And I'm like,
She did it, though.
but Chase led the charge.
Yeah.
He wanted to race. Anyway, we could tell story after story. So, guys, you wish my son well, as this is our last one. My daughter's married with kids. My oldest is married with kids, Chase. And that Chaz, my overthinker and slow to a decision, is finally getting married to a wonderful young lady, Ariana. And so we're dropping this on the day before. So y'all pray for them and wish them a great time. And until next time with you guys, I hope there was something that maybe helped you out in the season you're in.
Yep. It's Ron and Hope Unfiltered. Real, raw, and relevant.